King's Disease 2 by the legend that is Nas Jones, his 13th studio album.
Wow.
Released on August 6th, 2021. 15 songs, 51 minutes and 32 seconds. Obviously coming off the Grammy-winning album, King's Disease. Obviously him and Hitboy released a year after. King's Disease 1 was obviously released August 2020. This comes out August 2021. They first announced the project July 29th. So we got about a week's notice that this was coming. Obviously the two in that time had obviously linked up again on the Judas and the Black Messiah soundtrack with their song EPMD. They would obviously bring EPMD 2 to this album here. And obviously a project that got a lot of traction on social media. I was very disappointed that Jay-Z didn't drop on the same day. It was actually depressing. So we didn't continue that trend of Jay-Z finding some way to interfere with a Nas release. I guess Hitboy was involved here, so Jay-Z said, "Let me chill." Him and Beyonce too busy wearing blood diamonds. It's cool.
Oh my God.
I'm talking about everyone, man. No one's free from the smoke. No one is safe from the smoke, man. If you do some foul shit, I'm gonna talk about it. But yeah, King's Disease 2. So a lot to live up to. A lot to live up to in terms of what King's Disease 1 was for a lot of people, and obviously what it did for Nas's career. Grammy, which he makes reference to on this album, he doesn't really care about, which I loved. Thoughts, man?
What was that thing that Batman said at the end of Dark Knight?
I'm not the hero Gotham. He's not the hero Gotham wants. It's the one it needs right now.
This is the album I didn't know I wanted. I didn't want it, but it's one I needed.
Yeah,
I needed it. When I saw that they announced that they're doing King's Disease 2, I remember I was sat right here. I was sat right here in this very seat, and I said, "Why? I don't need this. I don't want this." Like, I got King's Disease 1. I was a big fan of King's Disease 1. But there's no need, like, I felt like I gotten everything that you guys had to offer from King's Disease 1. And King's Disease 2 was either going to be a repeat or was just going to fail to live up to expectations. And maybe that's why I enjoyed it so much, because my expectations were in the mud. And they far surpassed my expectation. I think this is better than King's Disease 1. Personally, I think this is really good. And obviously, we've had our little conversation about it. And in that conversation, I try to keep as much of my thoughts to myself as possible, which is something I really resent the listeners of this podcast for. Because if everyone had just decided not to listen, I'd be able to talk to Paul about music more often. When I have to wait until the end of the month to really talk about album, it's fine. I'm a man of the people in it. But listen, like when I start charging for this, understand this is why I'm charging.
Bro, you thought I was a madman when I said at the start of the podcast, I do this for y'all. I could be anywhere else in the world right now.
Oh my God. But nah, I really, really, really enjoyed this album. I felt like this was the perfect mix. And I say that it's funny because last year I said that this was the perfect mix for Nas and Hitboy in terms of Nas is rapping what he's rapping about, but the Hitboy beats on top of Hitboy beats, should I say. So he's rapping what he's rapping about on top of Hitboy beats, but the beats aren't like the main focus of this event. And I felt like I was getting something from the album. It was nice. This is even better than what that mix was on King's Disease 1. And I say that to say, like, you have a song, my favorite song off of this album, by far, Death Row East, where the beat is the first thing that it literally slaps you in the mouth. It slaps you in the mouth. He doesn't rap immediately. You just hear that little guitar, and it's just like, okay, I already know this song's about to be special. You hear the Hitboy, they let the beat rock for a bit. Now, yeah, come on. And the beat is doing what the beat is doing. The beat is doing everything the beat needs to do. And then Nas goes into this story just talking about that time, that point where it felt like things were going to boil over when it was New York, East versus West, and what it meant, and people who did not set people up, how he was trying to squash beefs, the danger of just being him at that time. And it's just like, this is everything I want and more. And I didn't know I wanted it until I'm listening to it, and now I can't turn this off. I didn't know I wanted a Lauryn Hill verse in 2021. I thought I was good off Lauryn Hill now. Like, I'm good. I've gotten all the Lauryn Hill I needed. Lauryn Hill came and gave me one of the best verses I've heard from her ever. Like, this album, again, I said it at the beginning, man. This album is the album I didn't want, but the album I needed. And you know what? I think the collection of albums that we've gotten recently, at the beginning of the year, I used to say things like, man, this is probably my early contender for album of the year. I can't say that anymore about albums because there's too many albums. This was the album that let me know, man, I think I'm done with saying that. I'm just gonna have to wait until the end of the year and see which album is living the most for me, because there's too many contenders. There's actually way too many contenders right now. I just need to see who makes it.
Thank God, because this nigga has come on here 5 different times this year. This album of the year. This album of the year. Nigga, shut up.
No, because it felt like it was going to be the album of the year.
I'm glad you finally realized, man, if I go into an album with no expectations, I might actually like the album, rather than saying, this can be the greatest shit ever. I expect it to be this, this, and this, and then being disappointed when one of those 7 things doesn't happen. King's Disease 2. As I said to you off mic, man, I wasn't a fan of King's Disease 1 in the way that, you know, the mainstream media was and our culture was. I was happy for the shine I got from Nas, but it fell into the similar traps that a lot of Nas projects post 2010 have, in the sense that, like, you're a legend and it feels like you're coming to play with kids, and it shouldn't feel like that. To make the annoying Jay-Z and Nas comparison, I remember reading years back a review of The Blueprint 3, Jay-Z's album, and the reviewer said that what's special about The Blueprint 3 is it feels like Jay-Z is retiring into Godfather status, and he's bringing the rap game with him. So even when he's rapping with Cole, who was young upcoming, even when he's, you know, rapping with Rihanna and Kanye, who are obviously the biggest names in music, even when Mr. Hudson's on there, it always feels like he's bringing them up to his Godfather status rather than him going down to what the kids were doing. That's why on that album, you have a song like Death of Auto-Tune, but that's what was big in the sound, but I have to sit at a higher plateau, and I'm reviewing everything. And I'm telling you from my perspective, yo, we got killed this shit because it's not good for our culture. This was probably the first Nas album where I didn't feel like he did anything that Nas shouldn't be doing. Like, even the 2 songs where he does play about with people, it's like I said with Drake actually, before, like, who are you playing with? And we were talking, when I said he's messing with Baby and Dirk, I can already tell you it's for the kids. The 2 songs on this album where he sort of does that, Brunch on Sundays with Blast, You Know the Vibes with A Boogie and YG, I would have preferred those not be on there just for the vibe, but they're great songs in of themselves, and so I'm not mad at it. Whereas with King's Disease, I felt like there was too much of that straddling the line. Whereas this, it really felt like from track 1, Death Row East, as you mentioned, sums that up perfectly. Only Nas can tell that story. Only Nas can tell that story. Do you know what I mean? And the vibe I would have gotten from previous Nas albums is that he'd have done a song like that, and then for whatever reason, there would have been a feature with like a Big Sean. And that's not to show on Big Sean, but that's just to say, man, only you can tell that story. So I only want to hear it from you. Do you know what I mean? And that's the same with Nobody with Lauryn Hill. I didn't know that Lauryn Hill was featured on here until the song came on and her voice started going. And I said, this is Lauryn Hill. Let me start the song again. What they're talking about on that song, the scrutiny of fame, the fact that I wish I could just fly away to a planet, a different island, and be nobody. I wish there was somewhere on this earth that I could be nobody. I have to carve out that space in my life. That's what Lauryn Hill's saying. It's like, y'all niggas didn't understand. I get out, apparently. Like, I got out of this music shit. I want to be able to exist in a world where I can just be nobody. Only Nas and Lauryn Hill, only a select few can actually understand that story. Only a select few can tell that story. And the fact that Nas understands who it is that needs to be telling that story. The fact that the production on here huge credits to Hitboy, because however much you and a lot of people, and rightfully so, love the production on King's Disease 1 from just a sonic standpoint. Again, from what I believe Nas should be at and what I believe Nas does best, I think it meant he had to water down some of his content. Huge respect to Hitboy for crafting beats and sounds and an atmosphere throughout this album, which allowed Nas to just tell stories. Just sit back and tell stories. Store run. Like, store run is just such a simple concept, but like the story and the way he's telling it, and yeah, it's a really good project. It's not something I wanted or expected, but it was a really great effort. It's probably it's probably his second best album since 2010. I would have to see how it lives against Life is Good. Life is Good's a fucking phenomenal album. But I just think just for the maturity that he shows on this, it's so refreshing. Refreshing.
Yeah. It's really good, man. It's really, really good. I mean, you mentioned it before, even EPMD 2.
Yeah, Eminem.
I was so shocked. When I heard Eminem, I was like, oh, here we go again. And then he carried on rapping, and I said, this is the best Eminem has sounded in years.
In years.
I couldn't believe. I was like, yo, this is Eminem. This is M. This is Slim Shady. This is who I wanted to hear all these times.
Yeah.
And he's just back. He's just back. It was exciting. Like EPMD himself, excited. Oh my God. And this is something, I don't know why I haven't mentioned this before. Because he's been making this a point, and it's like no one's talking about it. Everyone's just saying, oh yeah, he's just having fun. But he's been really making this a point, a consistent point. Charlie Wilson is not to be played with. Charlie Wilson would change the complexion of an entire album because he was on 30 seconds of a song. He's different. Like, there's something about Charlie Wilson's voice that will just enhance an entire album. I can't explain it. I can't get into it because I don't know what it is. I just know when I hear Charlie Wilson, I want to wheel up the whole album just so I can get back to when I hear Charlie Wilson again. Like, it's different. It's very, very different.
Absolutely. And that's sort of like, you bring up Eminem and rapping with the legendary New York duo EPMD on the song EPMD, which is fucking dope. That's what I'm talking about. Like in Nas albums in the past, again, no disrespect, that Eminem verse would have been Dave East or someone like that. And again, that's no disrespect. Dave East is a fucking phenomenal, talented rapper. But there are some stories that you want to tell as a rapper and you want to get a feature. There's only certain people who can do it. I remember when Pusha T was doing his promo run for Daytona. Yeah. And he talked about the fact that he was asked a question about Ross being the only feature on Daytona, other than Kanye, obviously, but Ross being the only feature on Daytona. And he was like, the thing with Ross is, I can send Ross the track with no guidance. I know that what I'm getting back is exactly what I envisioned in my head, because he just gets the assignment. He just gets it. And if you look at Push and Ross's career and their features and their chemistry, it's just like that. I'm sure Drake and Ross are the exact same thing. I'm sure Ross can send Drake a feature without giving him any guidance. I'm sure Drake can send Ross a feature and they just get it. There are some people who just get what you're trying to get across. And sometimes it's going to be people who have been through what you've been through. Nas is 26 years in the game.
Man.
Maybe close to 30. Like close to 30 years since his debut album dropped.
Wow.
Do you know what I'm saying? Close to 30 years since his debut album dropped. M is at about 25, 23. Yeah,
roundabout.
Lauryn Hill's been doing this shit since the 80s.
Man.
There's just certain people who, however great the young crop of rappers are, or the younger crop of rappers are, and they're fucking phenomenal. They're superb. There's just some people who just, they get what you have been through. They get this story. Like Death Row East, there's a version of Death Row East that Jay could hop on. Because again, I lived that. And to hear that from Nas's perspective, I've never really heard Nas's perspective on the East Coast, West Coast. Obviously on the old albums, but since then, like years removed as you matured, I've never really heard Nas's perspective on East Coast, West Coast like that.
And you
And
know
for
what?
him to sorry, right, bro, for
Mm.
him to come in and just like sit down and tell that story. Yo, I tried to squash it. We tried to do this. We did this. I flew out to LA. Wanted to speak to Park. We were gonna go. Like it was just as a hip hop nerd and as a geek, I'm just sat there geeking out, and I'm doing that throughout the whole album. And it's because I never felt there wasn't a time where I then heard you with Kent Jones or just someone random out of the blue. Like again, no disrespect to Kent Jones. Kent Jones, phenomenal in his time, but like just rap with who you're supposed to rap with sometimes, man. And it does the trick. And again, I really can't give Hitboy enough credit for the curation of the sound and the aesthetic of this project.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great album. It's a really, really great album, man. It's something that I find myself, I'll need to listen to another album because there's other albums that obviously we're discussing about reviewing. And there'll be albums where I'm like, you know what, today all I'm listening to is this album so I can digest it, understand if we should, what I need to talk about, you know, what's this? Let me go through the lyrics, blah, blah, blah. I find myself repeatedly wanting to go back to listen to King's Disease 2 because it's a fantastic album, man. It's just really, really fantastic.
It is real quickly while we have some more time. I'd be remiss if I didn't say Lauryn Hill just shouting all you niggas, man. It was so beautiful to hear her and what she's talking about. Go keep listening to that. It's so like just the way in which she articulated it. Like that line of it's clear y'all niggas didn't understand I Get Out, apparently. Like, no, you're not gonna get Lauryn Hill album. No, so the young niggas can come on the internet and just talk shit about it who don't understand music. Like Three Stacks has a verse that he said in 2006 about internet trolls as well, which is so ahead of its time that it just like all these rappers who just get it, like they're just in themselves. Like I don't need your validation. I do this shit for me. And the moment you guys try to forget that I do this shit for me and not for y'all, I don't need your clout. I don't need your clout. If Lauryn Hill wants to keep popping up every 18 months and doing this, me, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. If that's what you want to do, hey man, once every 18 months, if that's the contracts we have to sign, you're going to give me 150-point performance once every 18 months and every other game is 0-0-0s, absolutely fine. I'll take it.
That's fine. I don't even mind if you turn up to games late.
That's fine, man. Hey, bro, you don't need to practice at all. Like, practice? We talking about practice? No, we're not. We are not at all.
Yo, quick question, man. Quick question. Cash Doll and King's Disease and King's Disease 2. Do you think that these are all things on KD's list that he's starting to get really annoyed at?
KD's not the real KD.
I'm sure this nigga's at home like, stop using my initials. I don't, leave me alone.
KD's not the real KD no more. Niggas be saying KD. I'm like, what KD are you talking about?
Like killed to death ratio.
Like, do you know, bro? Because if you say KD to me, I'm assuming you're talking about Cash Doll. Because there's no other KD that matters.
Yeah, and Cash Doll is so dead serious on this.
That's the only KD that matters. So. His name is Kevin Durant. I don't know KD.
Oh man.
Out of 10.
8. Solid 8.
Yeah, I agree. A really solid 8. Lauryn Hill's verse is like a 9, but really, really solid 8. It's a really good project. It's a really good project. What song do the people have to listen to?
Man, we've spoken about it in depth, but I'll be remiss if I said any other song, man. Death Row East.
Yes, sir.
It's everything. It's everything anyone could want from a song.
If you're a hip hop nerd and a hip hop geek, and not even just a hip hop geek, like Black History nerd, because this is Black History. Like that East Coast West Coast beef in the 90s was Black History.
Yeah.
You have to listen to this song. The story that is told, the way he takes you through it. It's like, do you remember on Gets This album? I can't remember the song it was, but one of the songs where he was just talking about the beef that he was going through, and he was on stage with a ting in his like. It's like that. Like the storytelling is that surreal and that important and that cinematic. That you're right. You have to go and listen to this song. Have to, and you have to listen to Nobody with Lauryn Hill. But I done told you about that so many times now. So
Listen, man, just go listen to the whole album and you'll enjoy, man. You have my words, my personal words. The Raheem stamp of approval.
And what, your word is bond?
No, it never has been. I just be talking shit all the time.
You talking shit all the time. Don't know why these niggas listen to me for real.
How are you counting on me? Like, have I not made myself clear?
I made myself so clear. My opinions blow with the wind. Here one day, gone the next.
Yeah. Next week I'll be telling you how Hitboy isn't really a top 20 producer.
Like, man's gonna be out here talking about, Hitboy's only like top 85, like max.